we ready? Good morning, everyone. I ask that those of you in attendance please take your seats. We are going to begin the hearing. My name is Allison Peterson. I'm the hearing officer assigned by the School Reform Commission to help them in the processing of all of the applications that they received for charter schools this year. We are going to be having the second hearing this morning on the application for Germantown Community Charter School, and we will be following the same process that we have followed for all of the other applications, which is this. We will first hear from the school district today, who will be given up to 30 minutes to provide an overview of their review of this particular application. Prior to the start of the hearing, the school district handed out a written evaluation report that I received, and I believe the applicant has also received and had a chance to read through. And we will be marking that as School District of Philadelphia Exhibit Number 1 for purposes of the Germantown Community Record. Following the presentation from the school district, we will then have a period of question and answer, most of which will be directed towards the applicant, as the whole purpose is to obtain clarity on the application that was filed and the educational plan, financial plan, operational plan, etc. that is referenced in the application. After the question and answer period ends, the applicant will have up to 15 minutes to give a closing presentation. Each applicant, can use that time as you see fit. And then that will conclude the second hearing process for today. In addition, prior to the final decision in this matter, each applicant is being given the opportunity to file a concluding document with the S.R.C. It is not mandatory to do that, it is optional, but you have the right to do that. Each applicant is being given 2 weeks to do that. So 2 weeks from the date of today will be February 11th. 2015, and that document can be filed via email to Ms. Reamer in the Charter Schools office. She will in turn get it to me, and I will in turn get it into the record that the S.R.C. will be reviewing. The only caveat, well, you can use that document as you see fit. You can use it, for example, to explain to the S.R.C. why you believe you've met the requirements of the Charter School law in terms of granting an application. You can use it to respond to issues that the school district may have raised in their written evaluation report. There's no specific format or content required for that document, but we are giving each applicant the opportunity to file such a document. I'm going to have everyone identify themselves for the record before we begin who might be speaking today. We have a stenographer here who is taking down what statements are made, so she needs to know who is speaking at what time. I ask that those of you who would be speaking to keep your voices up. We do not have microphones in this room, however, we have yet to need them until today, so I hope we will not need them today. And it hasn't been a problem, so I just ask you to keep your voices up and do our best not to speak over one another so that she can take down the statements that are made in an accurate fashion. So I'm going to have those who are going to be speaking and identify themselves for the record. I'm going to start with Ms. Reamer, and we'll work our way this way towards the applicant.
I'm Megan Reamer in the Charter School office.
Julie Stapleton Carroll with the Germantown Community Charter School.
Shireen Mokins, former administrator in the school district, for a nonprofit and charter.
Vera Primus, I'm president of the Germantown High School Alumni Association.
Gerald Santilli, Santilli and Thompson.
Robert Seeley, Germantown Community Charter School.
Joe Budd, co-founder of Medical Care of Germantown, here for the Germantown Community Charter School.
Kurt Raymond,
Anyone else?
Gloria Doolin Wilson, former counselor, journalist.
Lisa Hopkins, founder of the Commissella Group for Cultural Performing Arts, also in support of the Germantown Community Charter.
Paula Paul, educator and co-founder of the Germantown Artists Roundtable, a network of artists in Germantown supporting the charter school, the Germantown
United Community Development Corporation, and we are here in support of the charter school legislation.
Rachel Smith, Santilli Thompson.
Reverend Laura Toombs, First United Methodist Church of Germantown, and in support of the charter school application.
Reverend Richard Cox, retired Methodist minister, supporting the charter school of Germantown.
James Rupp, First United Methodist Church.
Jim McKelvey, Germantown Alumni Association Chair.
Is that everyone? Thank you all.
So we are going to begin the hearing from the school district this morning. Your presentation, you may begin.
Okay, thank you. Once again, good morning. I'm Megan Reamer from the Charter Schools Office, and I'm here to present the evaluation report received by the Charter Schools Office with respect to the application of Germantown Community Charter School Coalition to open a charter school in Philadelphia. Copies of the report have been presented to the hearing officer and to the applicant and will be made available to the public beginning either this afternoon or tomorrow after the conclusion of all the charter school hearings, which are almost done. In compiling this report, the district made use of both external and internal evaluators, and the names of the individuals who contributed to the report can be found on page 2 of the document. I'm going to start by just giving a very high-level summary of what the application is proposing, and then I'll move through each of the 4 sections of the report, just highlighting some of the components that the reviewers found most important, and then also mentioning any outstanding concerns that they had, or even just questions about which they thought that more information would be useful. So with that, I'll go ahead and begin with the application summary. Germantown Community Charter School proposes to open in the fall of 2015 with 600 students in grades 6 through 9. The proposed school would then add 1 grade of 150 students each year until reaching the full complement of 6th through 12th grade with 1,050 students in school year 2018-2019. The school would offer an academic program focused on the building trades and the hospitality and tourism industries, and would co-locate with the Boutique Hotel in the historic school district building. The mission of the Germantown Community Charter School is stated as follows: to meet the educational, job training, and cultural needs of our students and the community through a transformed and transformational Germantown High School campus. We will incorporate the cultural and historic assets of our community to provide our students with classrooms that extend into the neighborhood. Explicit training in 21st century skills will equip our students with the qualities and behaviors required for employment and advancement within the academic and professional world. The proposed school would be located in the Germantown section of Philadelphia in zip code 19144, and the applicants propose to locate in the former Germantown High School building. The proposed school would be a community school with the career academies focus. In terms of the academic plan, the proposed school intends to prepare students in Germantown to master academic, social, and professional skills, and to ensure that 100% of students are prepared and indicate a strong desire to transition into an intensive post-graduation program. This section mentions problem-based learning as a key instructional strategy and focuses on keys to achieving the school's mission by the use of problem-based learning, real-world experiences, and character and leadership education for students. The applicant plans to implement resources from the Efficacy Institute. They state that the active nature of their program is likely to be more engaging for students typically at risk of dropping out, I presume, and/or with special needs. They provide acceptable policies for identifying and evaluating students with disabilities, and as well as English language learners. Their service plan for groups of students requiring special services was not as developed, but the identification plan and evaluation plan was fairly developed. They would use a career academies model, which would involve 75 students with a core group of teachers who would loop with their group of students and with their teams. There would be a hospitality and tourism and building trades themed business electives. Each student would need to complete at least 1 paid internship by the end of 12th grade. The requirement would be for 80 hours for graduation. 80 hours of internship, that is. The school, in terms of discipline and school culture, they would use a responsive classroom type of approach, positive and restorative discipline, justice practices. Teacher professional development would be provided specifically around the use of and understanding of data. And although professional development was discussed in some detail in the application, there was not a detailed plan of who would provide the professional development opportunities. Reviewers provided a significant amount of analysis of the academic plan. Their first comment was that the plan for 21st century skills development, hospitality, tourism, and building construction trades within a career academies model has the potential to create active student engagement and authentic learning paths. They had some concerns, however, about the curriculum. There were a number of concerns related to the curriculum, although I'll just mention a few. The curriculum map they found to be sparse, did not specify any instructional resources, curricular materials, standards, or name which classes students would take, even in terms of their core content. And then particularly in relation to the career technical programs, the hospitality, tourism, and the construction programs, there were no standards, resources, materials, assessments, plans, or goals for those courses, which seemed to be a very critical piece of the proposed program, so that was just sort of a big gap in the curricular plan. There was not a very robust description of the project-based learning component, and also very little discussion of how the middle school grade program would differ from the 9 through 12 high school program. Reviewers also wondered how this proposed school would incorporate core content instruction into the career academies model. And perhaps relatedly, there was some discussion about having classrooms that extended out into the neighborhood and having out-of-school opportunities, including the internships, but I don't think it was limited to the internships. So reviewers were interested in more information about what that would look like, what classrooms that extend to the neighborhood would really mean in this context. Also, whether or not there would be a dedicated staff person that would be focused on developing all the external relationships that would be needed in order to run that kind of a program. Whether it be internships, mentors, trainers, business partnerships, all of those things. The applicant provided a strong set of expectations for school culture and a list of factors affecting school culture. The reviewers noted that it appeared to be pasted from the New York State Education website. Suspension and expulsion procedures were submitted but were not very detailed. So more development was needed for the code of conduct. There were a number of goals listed in the application, but a number of them related to inputs rather than outputs. So for example, 95% of students will take a proficiency baseline assessment. Teachers will plan collaboratively, that sort of thing. So good things, but not really outcome-based metrics was true of a number of them. They also didn't know any metrics that related specifically to the achievement gap, which was something that had been requested in the application. And then it appeared as if the interim assessments had not yet been either developed or identified. So just some more information about what the school would plan to do in terms of interim assessments. For the organizational compliance section, the Germantown High School Coalition began meeting in the spring of 2013 and has been meeting monthly since that time. The coalition is a cooperative initiative among a number of organizations based in Germantown. The founding team for the proposed school includes team members with strong educational and business experience, plus some political backing and some hospitality industry experience. The coalition has engaged the services of Santilli & Thompson to provide back office support for the school, and a contract with Santilli & Thompson is provided. The proposed school leader, Ms. Stapleton Carroll, was the founder and the first CEO of S.R.C.Hearing Charter School in Germantown, and she is also the CEO of Principled Schools, Inc. And the application contains a comprehensive list of leadership positions and job descriptions for all leadership roles. The school would intend to use the Danielson framework for teacher evaluation, and they included a comprehensive list of modules for staff summer training. The organizational chart and personnel policies were provided and appeared to be appropriate. A calendar was provided and included 184 student days of instruction, which exceeds the minimum number of days required in Pennsylvania. Articles of incorporation were included, were filed with the state in October, and bylaws were submitted. The code of conduct was provided, and as I noted, it doesn't contain some of the specific procedures that would have been preferable, but it does show a clear philosophy behind the discipline approach, and it clearly exhibits proactive, sort of preventative behavior management and a kind of broken windows type approach. In terms of student recruitment, the school proposes to target the catchment zip codes encompassing the Germantown neighborhood with an allowance for enrollment outside of the neighborhood if space allows. The policy states that there would be a lottery preference given to applicants living in zip codes 19144 and 19138. The applicant did provide demographic information and anticipates that approximately 25% of students enrolled would require special education services, approximately 1% of students would be English language learners, and approximately 98% of students would be African American. Applicant has recruited a founding board of 6 members with a broad range of skill sets, including the former principal of Germantown High School. And 3 parent members would be added to the board once the proposed school is in operation, and the parent members would be full voting members of the board. So there were just a few comments on this section from the reviewers. One question was just how or whether members of the initial coalition, the founding coalition, would be involved in the ongoing operations of the school. It looked as if 2 of them would be joining the founding board, but reviewers just were interested to know what about there was a large number of founding coalition members, so what would the others be involved at all once the school would be formed? In terms of Ms. Stapleton Carroll, would she be an employee of Germantown Community Charter School, or would she continue to be an employee of Principal Schools, Inc.? And would she contract with the school? So just a clarification there. Also, they wondered if any of the members of the founding group or the founding school leadership have expertise in teaching or leading career and technical education programs, specifically in hospitality and the building trades, particularly since that was, I think, a piece that they felt was weaker in the curriculum side. Just knowing if there'd be anybody on board initially that would be able to develop that part of the program. In terms of finance and facilities, projected revenues are $6.17 million in year 1, and projected expenditures about $6.16 million. Projected revenues for year 5, $12.17 million, and projected expenditures for year 5, $11.61 million. The fund balance for year 1 would be $7,428, and by year 5, the fund balance is projected to grow to $1.2 million, just over $1.2 million. Expenditures and revenues are clear in the budgeted narratives, and the school district subsidies are held flat for the first 3 years with 3% increases in years 4 and 5. Templates include revenue, expenditure, and cash flow assumptions, and are in alignment with the plan for the school. The operating fund balance is positive except for in September of year 2. The applicant does not plan to participate in PSORs, but would offer a 403B plan with a 5% employer match. Financial policies and procedures have been documented in the application. Financial controls are appropriate, include an annual audit by the contracted firm, William Thompson. For the facility, the preferred facility, as I've already noted, is the former Germantown High School, which is in 19144. The applicant clearly listed facilities requirements and plans for the renovation, which in addition to the space needed for the school would include a hotel and a restaurant facility. The applicant included a letter of support and intent from Concordia, which is the group that is proposing to purchase the facility from the school district. The letter was dated November 13th, 2004, so that was submitted, that letter was very current at the time that the application was submitted. Because the mission of the applicant is so closely tied to the building itself, no backup facility plan was submitted. Outstanding comments and questions for this section include a question about the negative cash balance of about $43,000 in the end of September of year 2. That wasn't really mentioned in the narrative. In terms of the letter of support from Concordia, Concordia is still working, I believe, to finalize the purchase of the building. And so it seemed as if at the time of application, they weren't really willing to enter into any more formal negotiations, although they were having verbal negotiations with the applicant, so no lease terms were actually provided in the application. And the applicant has stated that they anticipated opening in September 2015, so there's some question as to, even if Concordia were to be able to close on the purchase of the Germantown High School very soon, would they realistically be able to get those renovations ready and have everything in place in order to open in about 6 months from now? And then there was a question about the lease payments in the application. They were certainly budgeted, but then the question would be, upon what basis were they budgeted, since there didn't appear to have been these negotiations with Concordia at this point. The last section was the community involvement and support section. Germantown High School was recently closed, resulting in displaced students, and the applicant states that the proposed school would offer those students some choice in their education. The plan describes Germantown as an area in need of revitalization, which the new school could spur. And the applicant notes that there are currently no schools in Philadelphia that focus on the building trades or the hospitality and tourism industry. The applicant provides a list of a number of community groups supporting the proposed school, as well as numerous letters of support from community stakeholders. They also have provided a MoveOn.org petition with the names of 474 individuals, both from Philadelphia and outside Philadelphia, that affirmed a statement supporting the creation of the charter school in the Germantown High School building. And then they also include an additional 400+ signatures on a hard copy separate petition. They also included agendas and sign-in sheets from quite a large number, certainly more than a dozen, I think, community meetings that had been held related to the plans for the proposed school, and that again is because there had been a group from the community meeting well before the charter application was even released. So this planning had been going on for a long time prior. And they have been using a listserv of over 100 engaged community residents to communicate updates about their plans for this school. And they've also been utilizing social media. So reviewers noted that there's no question that the applicant has actively engaged community members. They've been doing so for the better part of a year, and they've demonstrated a significant level of community support for the proposed school. However, they did note that a significant amount of the support for the proposed school seemed to be from adult members of the community, and they did not see any evidence that students in the community would want to enroll or were planning on enrolling in the proposed school. They also there weren't any sort of pre-enrollment forms or anything like that, and then so they wondered if the school, particularly given its unique program, would be able to meet its target enrollment for the first year and then for all the years of the duration of the charter. And that concludes all of my comments from the review report.
Thank you very much. clarification question to you, Ms. Reamer, if you can answer it.
Okay.
On page 12 of the report, there's a discussion about a negative cash balance. Are they talking about the cash flow as opposed to the fund balance?
Yes, I think so, because in my non-financial review, I was not the financial reviewer of this application. I did not immediately note that, but the financial reviewer noted that.
I think that the budget documents, I'm sure Mr. Santelli, indicated there's a positive fund balance.
Yes.
But I think that there's a cash flow analysis that was included as well.
There's
And
a
it does show that there is negative cash flow predicted at that portion of the second year.
For 1 month.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's right.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were talking about the correct things, cash flow versus fund balance, and that there wasn't confusion there. Okay. We'll come back to the financial issues. Let's talk about some more general things first. I understand you want to open next school year, so about 7 months from now, correct?
We had originally anticipated that we would be able to do that, but given the delays that have occurred with regards to the due diligence of the potential buyer, we don't anticipate that that would be in the best interest of opening a quality school. So we would like to amend our application to open in 2016.
Okay. So sitting here today, if the S.R.C. were to grant you a charter, you would not open in 15-16, you would open for 16-17.
That's correct.
So there's no possibility that you would open for 15-16?
No, it's unrealistic.
I'm just trying to get an accurate reflection of what your proposal is to the S.R.C., so thank you for that clarity. So you really want to open 16-17 with a 5-year charter and then enroll grades 6 through 9 in year 1, correct?
Yes.
And that would be with 600 students, that would be your maximum enrollment?
In 2016, yes.
And then you would add 1 grade per year and 150 students per year, so you would ultimately be a grade 6 through 12 school with 1,050 kids?
That's correct.
And I understand that you are going to have this vocational focus as part of your curriculum, with focusing specifically on the building trades and the hospitality industry. I was a little confused by the one statement in the application, which the school district also highlighted, about where it says that there are, and I'll read specifically, it's page 91 of your application. It says, quote, currently there is no school in the city that focuses specifically on the building trades or hospitality and tourism industry. So our program will enrich the high school options available to Philadelphia students, end quote. Now there are both charter schools and school district schools that focus on those areas. So I'm confused by the origin of that statement. Can you explain that?
I think and when you say vocational, that's not the focus of the school necessarily. It's not your typical career technical education program. It's an academies model that uses those vehicles to teach the core curriculum, and so it's a little bit of a hybrid.
Maybe we're splitting hair. You have a vocational focus in terms of your career academies that are focusing on those 2 industries.
Right, but vocational is a really loaded term.
Well, which may have some impact on your application, because you're offering some sort of vocational training for part of your
career. It's project-based learning within the industries that we're talking about, the construction trades and hospitality and tourism industry. Our intent is that we're preparing our students to either choose to enter into a vocation or to move on to higher education, post-secondary education opportunities.
I think, and maybe this is part of the confusion that I had reading it, because there was not a very robust description of how the career academies fit within the overall educational plan, in terms of if there were courses that were going to be offered. I understand you talk about project-based learning, which is very amorphous term that we're seeing from a lot of applicants, but what does that actually look like in your school in terms of the skills that these students are going to be taught and be exposed to for that then real world focus, which is your overlying goal, I think.
Sure, so every grade will have a course specifically devoted to the program. So in 6th grade, for instance, we'll be introducing students to skill sets and how to, we're building 21st century skills in the middle school so that by the time they get to, so 21st century skills meaning.
What does that mean?
Right.
What will it actually look like in your
Team
school?
building, cooperative problem solving, critical thinking, resume building, how to do it, how to interview, how to write a letter, introduction, sort of practical skills that will build a foundation for our students to go out into the community and they're in high school and really engage in more specific and targeted experiences in the building trades and hospitality tourism industry.
So explain to us what courses are going to be at each grade level that are then going to translate into these real world skills that ultimately, culminate with these vocational career focuses in these two areas.
Sure. Well, as we were planning and writing, we were looking at the 6th and 7th grade students more or less being exposed to all of the career training options that may be available to them in high school. And generally, if we do go CTE, that's around 10th grade. So depending on the number of academies, and let's say there are 2, okay?
Well, I want to know what there are going to be, because the whole point of this, and I'm not trying to be rude, but the whole point of this is to have a plan, and you were going to open 7 months from now, and Mr. Santilli has been sitting through all of these, for at least 17 of them with me. So I think I've been consistent in trying to really pinpoint with each applicant what it is that this school is going to look like when you open your doors the first day to these kids, because you have to be up and running and ready to educate these kids. So what is it that they are going to be offered when these 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th grade students all come in, all 600 of them, on day 1? So explain exactly what it is that we would see in your school on that day.
Of course, in addition to the core subjects, they would be offered the opportunity to be exposed to the hospitality, exposed to the building industry, and those 2. Okay.
So we would divide, a student would be in a cohort of 75 students, and they would have an advisor, and that advisor and core group of teachers would be with them throughout their experience at the school. Once a week, they would have a course designed to introduce them to the skill sets that we want to develop through 21st century skill development, to provide them with the opportunity to go out into the community and engage with external partners and sites, be it the WIC House or the Edwards from Exeter Museum or any of our other partners on site to learn hands-on kinds of projects that extend their learning into the community. So we would begin with very basic lessons on how to interact in the community. What kinds of things do you need to be comfortable with or know in order to feel comfortable going out and representing the school. So it could be how to write a letter, how to develop your resume, how to shake hands, how to work cooperatively, how to solve problems together, a lot of team-based kind of creation, building up to more complex things as they get into later grades. So it would be a soft skills set development course that they had that complements their core curriculum. And then it begins to get them out into the community as they get into time.
Have any of those courses been developed to date?
There are models that we would continue, no. And part of the philosophy and some of the criticism with regards to curriculum development, my personal philosophy is when you bring a principal on and you bring your teachers on, you want them to really own that curriculum and that program. And having them develop it with you, they own it then. And once, if it's something that they've created, they've developed, they'll buy into it more. And, our teachers are fantastic assets to us, and to include them in the development of the actual program, I think it's important to have a quality educational model.
So it's not yet been developed?
Correct.
Now, I hear what you're saying, but you want to start with 9th grade in year 1. So you're going to have kids who are coming in who have not gone through the earlier grades at your school and received that sort of lead up.
Right.
So what are you going to do with those kids? What are they going to be offered?
That's an excellent point. That's the reason why we didn't start K-12 or 6-12, because we understood that we're going to accept students coming in 9th grade who are likely struggling readers, perhaps, a significant portion, and coming with other challenges. We understand that teaching the responsive classroom, teaching restorative justice is a complex thing. We anticipate that we're going to have to invest a lot of support in our 9th graders to be able to bring them up to speed, and we don't anticipate it's going to be absolutely simple or without its challenges, but we would focus intensively on sort of trying to bring them up to speed as much as possible.
And we spoke to exposure for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. For 9th grade, it would be something similar but more intense, because typically in any high school, even with CTEs, they do not go into them in 9th grade. It starts at grade 10. Okay? So generally, that is, the 9th graders are not in the CTE again.
Yes, but this is your proposal. Okay, that's all I'm trying to understand. Your plan, because I don't believe that there was a differentiation in your application for this career academy focus as only being a 10th through 12th grade thing. So what is your plan for what these children are going to be exposed to from a career academy perspective with the building trades and the hospitality and tourism industry at every grade level? Starting with the ones you proposed to open. This is what I'm not understanding. And if the answer is it hasn't yet been determined, then that's your answer, that's fine. But I'm trying to, and this is not so if there are folks here who want to ask things that the applicant is fine with, that's fine, but.
Sure is part of that.
Okay, okay.
I wanted to add something because Craig Fulmore, who is our vocational tech expert, is not here. And unfortunately, but it was written into the thing, the vocational end of it, which is primarily carpentry, plumbing, and those other trades, would be hopefully built into the school, because that was a core part of the whole thing. Starting primarily with the 9th graders in terms of hands-on, but with the other students, they would at least be learning things like math skills and creativity centered around that, but they would not be using tools, especially high-powered tools, until they hit 9th grade and had a chance to have some discipline around it. Now, the 9th graders coming into the school, according to Mr. Fulmore, would be given more focus in terms of those particular skilled individuals who would be on site to make sure that they knew how to use them appropriately, and then they could make choices within that as to what they wanted to focus on, whether they wanted to maybe start with electrical or start with carpentry and then move forward. All right, and the other thing.
Okay, go ahead.
And the hospitality end of it, because I heard you mention that there was no one here with a hospitality background. I'm a member of SITE, which is the Society of Industry and Travel Executives. And the hospitality end of it would be primarily, we didn't put it in it because we had not gotten permission yet, but Disney has an institute that teaches hospitality. And whether or not they're going to be able to license it for the school is up in the air, so we didn't want to include it and then it not happen. But that would be really good hands-on training, starting with 6th grade, because Disney starts young. and going all the way through with all the different surveys of travel industry, hospitality industry, hotel management, et cetera. And that's also going to be concomitant with the development of the auxiliary hotel and restaurant hotel.
Which we will get to.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're going to start in 9th grade with these kids having hands-on carpentry, electrical exposure and opportunities, that's year 1. So what is it? I mean, in a traditional career technical school, the CTE that you were referencing, you know, kids typically get half-day core subject areas, half-day vocational training in whatever area they so choose. How does that compare to what you're going to do, you know, for these kids starting in at least 9th grade? What is it going to look like in your school with this? Are they getting the hands-on training, and if so, how? And through whom? Because you don't have vocational staff in your staffing plan that I saw. Tell me if, please disagree with, if you disagree with me, let me know.
We have a coordinator of career and technical education. And so the idea is not that they're getting a half a day of career technical education, they're getting a period a day. So that it's, and that individual, the coordinator of career technical education, in the first year there's 1, in the second year we built in 2, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but that person is responsible for teaching those courses. And that, so it's not, again, it's not a CTE model of such an intensive experience and exposure, but that individual will be responsible for developing partnerships, external relationships, and developing the courses.
So I'm looking at your staffing plan, which is one of the attachments. And you have a director of career and technical education, 1 person in year 1, and then 2 people under that same title, year 2 and beyond.
Yes.
So you're saying that that person is not only going to be the coordinator of all of these partnerships and things, but they're also going to teach?
Yes. And
I just want to reiterate on the hospitality tourism part. One of our board members, Ray DeShields, is the executive director of hospitality and tourism in Philadelphia. He's also a graduate of Temple University, and he taught a graduate of Temple University Hospitality and Tourism. He also taught at OIC Institute, Hospitality and Tourism. So he's on the board. He has a lot of things that he's bringing to us that we haven't finalized as of yet. But the curriculum, he has put a curriculum together in that area that we're looking to model from. Also with relationship through him and another board member who is a hoteler that builds hotels, looking at partnering with some of the main hotels, Marriott, and another model that they have that would bring a curriculum in that we're in the process of meeting with them to go over that detail, because we haven't pulled that in together yet, but we know where we want to go with it. So the hospitality.
And none of that has been provided to us?
That hasn't been provided to us.
I want to make sure we haven't missed something.
so if I could address what you were talking about with regards to staffing. The intent of the project-based learning is that a lot of the learning of these things happen within the regular core courses. So for instance, and then the director of career and technical education would be managing that process, to identifying where teachers in, let's say, a math class can utilize construction to help illuminate concepts that the students are learning. And help support that teacher, and perhaps if they want to teach a concept with regards to right angles or something, and they want to build a shed for one of the historic homes, that they have what they need as a teacher, that they've identified the standards that they're teaching, and that the students build this shed at this location and have learned this concept, and yet it's also a construction experience for them. And so the idea is not that it's contained in this one course, but that this director is helping other teachers also implement these concepts in their classrooms.
But that level of curriculum integration between the core subject areas and the vocational career pursuit has not occurred yet.
No, No, and again, I'll go back to the piece where the principals that we want to hire and the teachers that we want to hire, we want them to own that. And,
so I guess I'm still sort of stuck on the staffing because there are certification requirements in Pennsylvania, which I'm sure you are aware of, or aware of, all of you folks who, because you've been in the educational world running schools before. And there are vocational certificates that apply if students are learning in certain areas, regardless of what you might call these folks. If it meets the requirements of certificate, the person has to have the certificate, and if they're not properly certificated, then you could have an issue, but, you know, charter school law aside. Right? So the question that I have, you know, if you're having one person, this director of career and technical education, and two, starting in year 2, how are you going to ensure that the person who's actually providing the instruction has the proper certifications that they might need in all of the different areas? Because you're not just focusing on one vocational career area, you have multiple.
and again, I go back to we're not developing a career technical education program. And so I would argue that the certifications for that aren't required. We're not providing.
Well, then have you talked to PDE about that?
No.
Because PDE is the one who determines that.
Right, well, we're not applying for a CTE program.
That's not necessarily, I'm not gonna argue with it because it would be up to PDE to tell you that, but from what you're describing here, while you might not call it an official career and technical education program, you're offering courses that would fall within the certification areas. So I'm trying to gauge what level or degree of planning or review of that issue has come into play here. So you haven't talked to anyone at PDE about whether certified vocational staff would be needed for this?
Not about that.
Okay. So in terms of there's a line item in the staffing plan for specialist teachers. And there's five positions, I guess you could say, that are listed there. What would be the specialist teachers you would need for year 1?
Art, physical education. We would like to music, and then 2 we would use to supplement the career program.
Can I clarify that?
Yes.
They would also include EL teachers if in fact they're necessary based on the population.
So it would not be 2 for the career program?
We don't anticipate needing a full-time ELL teacher, so potentially 1.5.
And was that what was originally contemplated when you submitted this, that it was going to be 2 career instructors as part of the specialist teachers?
I believe so.
And are you offering foreign language to any students?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Spanish.
So one of the specialist teachers would be a Spanish teacher?
Yes.
Is that at all grade levels?
Yes.
So if you could explain to us how then this concept of having the small boutique hotel and the restaurant fit into the educational plan. It wasn't clear to me who would own those things or what the relationship would be to the actual school. So if you could provide some additional information about that, would be helpful.
Sure. The goal to partner with an external owner, so we would partner with a developer for both of those, the restaurant and the hotel. Eventually, we don't anticipate that this is going to happen in year 1 or year 2 or even year 3, but the goal would be to attract a developer for both of those organizations and to partner with them to build them into our academic program. So students would learn how to run a restaurant through learn marketing, learn finance, learn management, through experiences, internships, potential coursework involved with each of those aspects, depending on their interests, similar with the hotel.
So this is something that might happen in the future, but that's up in the air.
It's something we definitely want to create. We've been, we visited, Randolph has a hotel management program. We've been to our business school in Rochester, Buffalo, that has a program as well in a restaurant at the high school level. So we explored the feasibility of that. You know, there's lots of eventualities with regards to creating that, but it's something that I think our community is interested in attracting. We built it into the facility plans. There's space that we allocated to that, and it would be a great enhancement to the school.
There was some statistics quoted in the application regarding the potential demographics of the school. I believe there was a table, and it indicated that you were proposing to have 24 to 25% special education students, about 1% ELL population. I don't believe the application disclosed how those numbers were determined. Can you speak to that?
Sure, yeah, we looked at the demographics of the high school when it closed.
Germantown High School.
Yes, as well as compared it to Payne and other local institutions in our training schools.
So with a 24 to 25% special education population, that would equate to about 150 special education students in year one with the 600 student enrollment. And you budgeted for 5 special ed teachers. Obviously, no one knows what the potential disabilities would be of the students and what their needs would be, since that's such an individualized decision and you don't know who will enroll. So I recognize that. But that really is at least a 30 student caseload for every special ed teacher. Is that something that you think is realistic or reasonable in your experience?
In our experience, based on the types of disabilities that we've seen, yes.
Now, Ms. Stapleton Tower, you were at S.R.C.Hearing Charter School, correct?
Yes.
And what were the grade levels there?
It's K-8.
And was that located in the same area of the city?
It's in the same zip code, yes.
And you are the proposed CEO for this school?
Yes.
And would you, I guess there was some question, I saw that there was a reference to you having your own company, Principal Schools, Inc.
I would be an employee of the school.
Of the charter school?
Yes.
So Principal Schools, Inc. would not have a relationship with the charter school?
Possibly before the CEO is hired, you know, there would be some transition.
And the CEO being you?
Yes.
Okay. So once you were hired as an employee of the school, would Principal Schools, Inc. have any role in the charter school? Are you the only employee of Principal Schools?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson, could we go back to the special ed teachers?
Sure.
There will be the budget's prepared on a conservative basis, and here's a national norms of about 13%. There are 78 special education students in the initial year's budget. If in fact it is closer to 125 or 150, as Ms. Carroll projects, the budget would be modified to add additional special education teachers and additional support.
So the budget does not reflect the anticipated 25%?
No.
Special ed population. And there were 5 special ed teachers
Each
in
for
the
75,
existing budget?
for 78 students, yes. So if in fact there are additional students, then the revenue will in fact increase, and we will add additional special education teachers to the budget.
So, okay. So you were anticipating needing 5 special ed teachers for 78 kids?
That's correct.
So you would potentially need at least double that?
Correct.
For 25%?
Absolutely. But until we actually see what the population looks like, the budget is very conservative.
I understand that.
But there would be money with additional revenue generated, because the additional revenue is in excess of almost $13,000 more per child for special education.
There was also a reference in the application to the the teams of 75 students with a core group of teachers who loop with their team. I understand my concept of looping is that the teacher follows the kids from grade to grade. Is that what that meant here?
Yes, where possible, our teachers will stay with students as they grow. That it wouldn't be across the middle school and high school, but it would be within at least a core advisor, so that students and teachers really form a relationship where they know each other.
Would that looping then only be with respect to the advisor position, or also their core subject area teachers in the middle school, for example, following them from grade to grade?
Given constraints of certification and challenges, as much as possible, teachers would follow students.
Application discussed the enrollment policies of the proposed school in terms of who would get a preference in the school. And I just want to confirm that my understanding is accurate. It appeared to me that a priority preference or a first preference would be given to students who live in the 19144 and 19133 zip codes. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Would there also be a sibling preference?
Yes.
And would there be a founder's preference? Do you know what I mean?
Right then into the.
So that is not your expectation?
Right.
And then after the sibling preference and the zip code preference, would it then be sort of citywide? And the application stated that your plan is to not backfill seats after February
Yes.
in any year?
Yes.
And why is that?
We found that adding students after February can be disruptive to the culture, and that, and that's basically it. It's not to prevent any student from enrolling, it's just to make changes to the culture.
There was a reference in the budgetary materials to the school not permitting, to having a 403B plan as the retirement option and not PSERS. Is that the expectation?
Yes.
Okay, so no employee will be eligible to participate in PSERS.
That's correct.
And that's what's been budgeted, only
That's
the
correct.
5% contribution. And is there an existing 403B plan?
No.
Have any plan documents been prepared to date?
No.
Alright, so let's talk about, just quickly about the board. I know that there were board members proposed in the that there are 2 members of the founding coalition have been chosen to serve on the inaugural board. Ms. Primus and Mr. Budd, correct?
Yes.
And that's still true?
Yes.
Have any other board members been identified to date?
Yes.
Yes, currently we have, as you said, myself and Joe Budd. We have Mr. Greg Shields, the Executive Director of Hospitality and Tourism in Philadelphia. We have Margaret Mullen, the former principal of Germantown High School. We have Mr. Paul Patel, Hospitality and Tourism Group Hoteler. And then we have Angela Davis, legal attorney, who's very active in the Philadelphia area and has participated in opening 5 charter schools.
Is she gonna serve on the board or as your counsel?
On board.
And do you anticipate any other members being selected?
Not at this moment.
Will there be parent representation on your board?
Yes, it will. We have left spots for 3 parents to join the board.
So let's
I'm
talk.
sorry, I forgot
Sure.
one more. Did I mention Evan Charles, who's the founder of Frontier Management and Hoteler? He owns several hotels, Compton, Marriott, and can't think of the other one off the top of my head, but he's all.
Okay, great. Let's talk a bit about the facility. Now, I understand that, is it fair to say that the application revolves around the use of Germantown High School, the former Germantown High School?
The seats of the school, yes. We've talked about Plan B and would be willing to locate elsewhere if need be, but are very interested in bringing the school back to that site.
There weren't any other facilities referenced in the application other than the former Germantown High School.
Right.
And the application references the building is in the process of being sold to the Concordia Group.
Yes.
By the school district.
Yes.
Now, my understanding is that that has not yet been, that sale has not been finalized, that there may be some holdups with that sale at this point in time.
I spoke to them on Friday, and they said they expected 1 more month of due diligence, and then they'll move toward purchase.
Is there a closing date at this point in time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Now, some of this may not be as applicable, given that you pushed your proposed opening date back a year. But do you have, you don't have a backup plan if that sale does not go through at this point? Is that fair?
We would hope that if that sale does not go through, that there's other folks in the wings that would be interested in purchasing it. But in terms of an additional facility, no.
And I believe that there were plans that were submitted for the building. Were those plans that you folks had developed?
Yes.
Yeah. In concert with the neighbors.
Are there other, I know a lot of this is sort of in flux because of the property being sold, but if the Concordia Group is sold the property, are there other tenants that would be in that site that you're aware of?
We think, given the size of the original school, it's very likely it would need to be a mixed-use development, so there would be a...
And you said we. Do you represent the Concordia Group?
No, I'm with Germantown.
Okay. So, do you know who the other tenants could be at this point in time?
We've spent a lot of time working with the community and working with Philadelphia University on identifying potential folks. Specific tenants, no. I think, what we would serve is a tenant for additional development. And there's been some conversation around artists, lofts, and commercial uses, but there's been no specific tenant that's been identified.
There was discussion about sharing, I believe, the auditorium or the gymnasium
Yes.
with other people without knowing who those people would be. I mean, what is your expectation or knowledge of how that might work?
The community would be engaged and involved in creating a shared plan. We haven't gotten a lot of those details down because there's not a there to discuss them with. But the intent would be that the school would negotiate with the landlord and whatever partners they have usage of those spaces, but also making it available to the community. I think the greater interest was that the school be having a deliberate share plan with the community would help facilitate that.
Obviously, the charter school's operation would need to be separated from the other tenant uses that could be in that building. What have you thought about in that regard, and how that would work, particularly if there's some sharing of space?
Right, I think the safety of the students is most important.
Of course.
Yes. So the
Goes without saying.
So the spaces wouldn't be used by the community during school hours, or hours that the school might need for gym, for instance, or the basketball team or whatnot. We have built into our budget also rent for that specific space. That's reflecting that it's not our controlled space, so there would be some negotiations and some arrangements and contracts.
What is in the budget for security? In terms of people, systems, et cetera?
There is security in the budget, as well as hall monitors. It begins with 1 and grows to 2 to 3, and then there are hall monitors throughout that.
Well, but in terms of what you budgeted for, what is it based on? Are you having a swipe card system? Are you having video cameras? What sort of equipment and support have you budgeted for, with the knowledge that there's going to be other tenants in this very large building?
Our expectation is that security cameras and mechanical security will be part of the overall lease and part of the tenant improvements within the lease.
Will it have any lease discussions occurred with Concordia Group?
They have chosen not to engage in specific lease conversations at the moment until their due diligence has been completed. They've seen copies of our proposal, they've seen copies of our budget. They haven't expressed any concern with the numbers that we provide.
And they haven't told you they're acceptable.
True.
Just saying. Okay. So then how was it determined what rental amounts or lease amount was included in the budget?
It's a certain per square footage that mirrors the market, but at this time, to be honest, on the public record, we're still in negotiations like that, and not go into too much detail.
Okay.
As far as, I wanted to say something. As far as security, the community has taken ownership of this project. It's put in Germantown High School. Several middle schools have already said they would volunteer safe corridor initiatives during school hours and after hours. We have men out there preparing to secure the building.
Well, and I appreciate that. I'm really talking about the interior of the building, because if you don't necessarily have as much control over who Concordia Group, if they are sold building, puts in the building. Maybe you have some say, maybe you don't. But in terms of separating operations, when you have multiple uses in one very large building, you know, my job is to figure out, on behalf of the S.R.C., what planning you have done, what thoughts you have put into that. So that's what I'm trying to do.
When it's a community event, the community will be in the building, so we would have access to the building at that point.
But I'm talking about during the day, when the kids are there.
Okay.
Yeah, the physical arrangement of the building is such that it's very easy to sort of segregate half of it with minimal, so the physical sort of given lends itself to that sort of partitioning on a separate tenant.
And at this point, have you had any discussions with Concordia Group about any renovations that would have to occur to do that?
We've had initial, they've seen our plans, we've met with them a number of times. We understand and they understand that renovations have to occur. We think that they can be phased in to make it justifiable for them and affordable for us. So they're aware of the need, and they're aware of what our plans are. They've seen it.
But you haven't had that level of discussion with them?
They really want to wait till their due diligence is finalized. They didn't feel like they could see two costs, not knowing what needed to happen in the building to make it, bring it up to speed.
Those are the questions that I have for you. Thank you. So would you like to take a few minutes before you start your closing presentation?
Yes.
It is 11:16. We will come back around 11:25.
Great. Our after-school program was actually founded in direct relationship with the Germantown High School administration 20 years ago, and we worked with them through that. We continue, even though that school has closed, we recognize that moving into the future, we feel as a church a great responsibility for the encouragement of our youth and the building of them into very productive and faithful members of the community. We have amongst our membership persons that are serve in a number of professional fields. Many are retired educators from the school district of Philadelphia, including former school principals, numbers of educators within the Philadelphia School District and beyond. But importantly, also some lawyers and other professionals such as dentists, and people that are very supportive of creating mentoring relationships, working with students one-on-one, in addition to welcoming them into their spaces for the internship things that have been referenced. We understand as a community church that we have seen through other programs that are housed in our space how the closure of the school has actually affected the community. We're aware very intimately of individual members of the community who, when Germantown was closed and people were pointed towards King as an option, of youth who we know specifically actually dropped out of school. And I think that this particular community coalition is especially interested in those youth of the community that are choosing not to even be in school, in addition to maybe fulfilling what their needs are more specifically. Through the after-school program, we also would hope to re-engage community business partners with career programs that we did have, which included a gastroenterologist in the community, the WIC, and even the Little Jimmy's Cafe, which is very much in the hospitality industry and we have relationships with. Those are just a few of the things that we offer, but we are happy to open our space as well to support the charter school and any relationships that continue to make this possible.
And, my name is Victoria Dior, and I'm with the Business Center for Entrepreneurship. The Business Center started in 1999, and one of the things that the Business Center does do is work with small business and entrepreneurs and startups. When Germantown High School was functioning, the Business Center actually did go into the school and create a program that allowed the students to make their own bank. It was run by the students, it was financed by students that attended Germantown, and we have other programs like that that we run in schools around the city. We bring in teachers that teach children how to write business plans and create businesses. And if you look at our information, we run summer camps. We start with children from age 7 and up. We have kids in middle school who are operating functioning businesses today based on this type of training. And they may be things as simple as a dog walking business in their neighborhood or some other type of business, but teaching these skills to kids is very possible. There are programs in place to do it. And our children's program at the Business Center has worked with schools since 2006 in the city. And will continue to do so as the charter school comes to fruition.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Hopkins. I'm founder of the Comma Sailor Group, and we are a multicultural and spiritually based performing arts program. We've been awarded through the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts. We've been also awarded grants from the Philadelphia Activity Fund through Councilwoman Cindy Bass, and then also Philadelphia Culture Fund. What we have done since 2010, we have teacher artists that provide training skills in African dance, modern dance, and hip hop dance. Also cultural music in different African languages. And Comma Sailor is from my mother's native country of Liberia, which means God's blessings. And we take our skills and the blessings that's been bestowed upon us and give them back into the community. For this year, or before this year, 2012, We performed an adaptation of The Lion King, and Councilwoman Cindy Bass attended that program that was presently presented at John B. Kelly School. We actually have an after-school program with 25 students. We teach this program after school 3 times a week. Right now, we're without a grant for that program, so we charge a minimum cost. But what we would like to bring to the Germantown Community Charter School is an after-school performing arts program, because the school district has cut off programs of performing arts, and our theme is that art saves and empowers lives, especially for children who are in communities where violence is at a high and drugs also has infested those neighborhoods, and they also come from broken homes. So we have provided since 2010 a safe haven for students to express themselves culturally through dance, music, and theater. So with those trainings, we are able to provide a full production. So we would like to provide training for these students in those areas and like to use the auditorium. We would also like to partner with the teachers, the gym teachers, the English teachers, and the other art teachers, so that we can put on a production that the community themselves can come and have a good time, and the children will be able to have their talent showcase.
There's 2 more that I need to mention. Joe Bud, and care of Germantown, and Gary.
Joe Bud, Mental Care of Germantown. We were established in 2011. We're a community-based organization in Germantown of men coming back together to do positive things in the community. And when we saw that Germantown was being closed, we felt that there was a need to do something. When they closed the school and we heard about the coalition, we joined right in. And we believe that if you look at the list, I know you guys have this, but there's close to 30 or 40 names in here that want to contribute to the school. And just think about the plans that we put in, how beautiful that would look on Germantown Avenue to have a school and a campus there. And how would it affect the children who want to take ownership of their neighborhood? We talk about what the kids are doing and not doing. Give them something they can take ownership of. That's why we got involved. I don't know if Darryl Clark just put something out about a program with the universities to do something in the public schools. He calls it super. And I think that this is what we're about. We're about doing something in the schools to help build up our children. And I think we have to take ownership of that. And we are there to mentor. We go in and talk to the young men. We even found out that there's no parent-teacher association at Roosevelt. We believe that you have to address the whole family along with the students. So we have to start a parent-teacher association and have that vibrant in the schools. It's very, very important that we do that. We adopted Roosevelt as our school of choice, which is a district school. We went in and we bought them basketball uniforms. They didn't have basketball uniforms. I say all of this to say that the community is ready to invest in the schools and invest in the youth. And I think that it's incumbent upon, if you look at all the people here, it's incumbent upon to look at that and say, we have a great group of people that's willing to help our youth. Yeah, maybe all the details, all the I's wasn't dotted and all of that stuff. There were some questions that you have about certain things. But we have educators, business people, community leaders, spiritual leaders in this room willing to do what's right for our youth. And I think we have to make sure that we take that into consideration.
I just want to address two of the financial comments over the years. The $44,000 negative cash variance in year 2, it's an $8 million budget. We will modify the cash flow plan for that year and discuss it in the response within 2 weeks without submitting any additional documentation. It is a minor issue. The second thing is there was a question about medical benefits for employees. The intent of the organization is to comply with Act 22 while also not violating the Affordable Care Act. So we need to balance that, but our intent is to try as best as we can to meet the intent of Act 22.
And then I would like to close with, there was a question with the fact that you wanted to know about us reaching out to the community for applications for children wanting to come to the school that we open. We have reached all the feeder schools in the area. We have made contact with the principals. We've gotten the contact names of the parent home and school, if there is a parent home and school. We are in the process of following up with those feeder schools to meet with them, to let them know what we're doing in the Germantown area, to make sure that they're quite aware of what's going on. And then there's one more person.
Yeah, my name is Gloria Wilson. I'm a recent transplant to Philadelphia, originally from New York, but I went to Lincoln University. I've got children who live here now who are grown. Philadelphia has always been, to me, one of the pinnacles of education. It's a historic area. Germantown is a historic area. Germantown High School was 1 year before its 100th anniversary when it closed. And what I have seen here, which is what caused me to join this group, is very heartwarming in that these people, unlike other people that I've worked with, are very, very invested and tied into the future of the kids in Germantown and in Philadelphia. And the wonderful thing about it is that they have taken the time to put their hearts, minds, and souls and energy together to make this happen because they love the kids and they care about what's going on. And all of the expertise that you see here and then some that you don't are what's supporting this and driving this. So my basic input is I'm glad that there's an opportunity for them to do what needs to be done to correct what I think is an egregious wrong in closing the school weekend.
Do we have any time left?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Reverend.
I'd like to thank Reverend Chester Williams, President and founder of the Philadelphia Labor Organization. We've been founded since 1981. We're an organization that does everything free. From free math tutoring classes, from every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. We have writing skills, we have reading skills, all offered to the community free. The reason why I stress the issue of free, that's how dedicated are we to the school. To bring things to the grassroots people that they cannot afford but they need. And this school, we are bounded in the issue that we ride the horse of saying bringing high tech. We want this school to be something that's so high unique that people want to fight to get in it. And that's why the Children's Welfare Organization is on board, to let everyone know this is not going to be a typical charter school. It's going to be a charter for people that have given their sweat and tears to give people what they really truly need, a technical school that they can climb up to the rest of their life.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we want to thank the school district, thank you certainly for your grueling commitment. In closing, I would just like to add that we hope to be an example for the school district of Philadelphia in that we can transform our community comprehensive high school into something that's accessible, that drive students to it, as opposed to the challenges that we find now with really struggling comprehensive high schools. I think that engaging the community and investing in the community is something that can be a solution for all, and hope to be an example of innovation in the school district. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we do have written documentation from our community organizations of what they will be offering to the school. I know we can't see it.
And I'm trying to be fair to all, which is we had to establish some parameters because we already have 50,000 pages of documents that we have read. So, but thank you. And you know, I don't think there's any question that you have community backing in terms of the organizations who are here and the people who are here. And I think that everybody would love to have that. So thank you. Okay.